Welcome to the Livin The Dream video podcast, episode number 23. And that's a special number when you got a guy who knows a thing or two about the NBA coming in here. I'm Rishi Barran. I'm the department chair at the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. Just saw Dan the other day, and he's been really happy with the progress and the continued job placement that we've had. One of those people has really, I was just telling him before we started this, he's really kind of been inspiring to me to see the way that he's gone after what he cares about, and not only done that, but at the same time done his best to take great care of the family that he has. He has a wife and a few kids, and he's just a great guy all around. That's what we're looking for here at the Dan Patrick School. Aaron Meaux with us from WALB-TV in Albany, Georgia. Aaron, how is life down there?
First, it's hot. If you've never been in Albany, Georgia, it's hot. It's a different type of heat, the humidity and the gnats. If you don't know about South Georgia, but those gnats below the gnat line, they're out and they're ready to get you, especially on those Friday nights. But honestly, it's been everything I could have ever imagined. The people, the community, the job. When you travel across the country to start a new journey, it can be a little bit daunting. It could be a little bit overwhelming, and especially when you don't know what you're getting into. But ever since I've been down here, it's been a year now, and it's been wonderful. Everybody's really been welcoming, and I think that's the difference coming from a big place like California, where people get lost in time, and they may not say hello to you all the time. Everybody down here in the South has been really extremely kind, and I've been truly blessed to be a part of that and be welcome to the community. So Albany, Georgia, I have nothing but good things to say about the place.
You just hit that 1-year anniversary. He is the sports director there. For those of you who don't know what that means, basically he's the main sports anchor, and he also runs the department. And he actually has another Full Sail grad there as well now with him, which we'll talk about. But it's been quite a journey for you, Aaron, to get to this point. Where did this whole dream of being a sportscaster start for you?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit different than most probably that you guys have seen come into the Full Sail Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting, program. I had a prior career. I was very successful working for the government in the state of California. I was in management for 12 years. And, just something inside you get that little feeling inside you that it's not where you're supposed to be. I was successful. It wasn't unhappy necessarily, but I knew I wasn't reaching my full potential and what I wanted to do. And it truly is like a movie. I was driving down the street one day, going to work, and I heard this commercial for the Full Sail program. And I was like, man, that's what I should be doing. And I kind of didn't think anything of it at the time. I was still working for the state. But one morning I woke up and I just didn't want to do what I was doing anymore. And I resigned. It was a very scary moment for me and my family just because I didn't have a backup plan at the time. I sent an email to my boss saying, hey, this is my official resignation. But I always knew that I wanted to be in sports. And I immediately went and found my local community college and enrolled in some communication classes. So that was at that point in time, I knew where I wanted to go, but I didn't really know how to get there. And so that moment where I decided to hit send on that resignation letter, I had made up my mind, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to try to get into communication. And wherever that takes me, that's where I would end up. So it was really that one moment that kind of forced me to do what I wanted to do. But really, sports has been a part of my life forever. And growing up, I played sports. My dad was my coach. I've always been obsessed with competition and watching two people or two teams go at it. And I've always been really good at breaking it down or giving my opinion and, seeing things differently than your average just fan that's watching the game at home. I like to dissect and analyze. And so I've always told myself, if I ever get an opportunity to be in a situation to do that and get paid for it, why not? So really the dream came from playing sports, but ultimately I've always just been obsessed with talking about sports. And if you're going to do it with your friends for hours on hours on hours, you might as well get a little bit of money while you're doing it. So that's really where it started.
Good strategy there. Good strategy, Cotton. I hope it pays off for you. I was reading on your station bio that you actually started at 3 years old talking to your dad's friends about trading cards and essentially naming players. How did you pick up on that so fast?
It's funny because my dad always says like a party trick. He can, bring his friends over and they'd be watching sports. And then he would just show me some of his card collection and he would show me the card. I'd name the team and the player. And at 3 years old, you're kind of amazed by something like that. But it just kind of came to me naturally. My dad is super competitive. He always wanted me to play sports. So he would always put me in anything that was, around my community. And then, I had my Sunday chores or my weekend chores. And normally the young boy of the house growing up goes outside, does the yard work. And, I have three sisters. They're in the kitchen or something. Well, me, I would pay or debate with my sisters, like, let me work in the kitchen just so I can watch sports while my dad is in the living room, doing that. So it just something that came naturally to me. I was always really in tune with what was going on in the sports world. I didn't really have to work very hard at it. I had an impressive memory, which helped a lot in sports and remembering players and stats. And I've just always had this natural ability to translate that into then giving my opinion or having a discussion with somebody about it. So I can't really take any credit as far as like working hard or saying, I put all this effort and energy into it. It was just more a natural gift that I was given. But when I found it, I loved it. And so that allowed me to then put in the hours and put in the work that I wanted to put in to know more than everybody else, or to be on the same level with the legends of the game, growing up watching Stuart Scott on ESPN and, Scott Van Pelt and Dan Patrick himself. So that's really what was the more fascinating thing than just me knowing the trading card. It was how much I was actually into it. And you could see the love for it at an early age.
You grew up in an NBA town in Sacramento, and really, fun for me growing up to watch when they really started to elevate with Chris Webber and Vlade and Mike Bibby and Doug Christie and all Bobby Jackson, all those guys. But, a city that essentially its name is attached from a professional sports situation to one team, but that one team has a great fan base. How did you enjoy growing up in that kind of an atmosphere?
Yeah, it was strange because when I was a young boy, the Kings weren't really that good. It was Mitch Richmond, Wayman Tisdale, they were all okay, but never really to the point we felt like they were going to win anything. And then the Chris Webber deal happened, and then you go get, Jason Williams, and you get, Vlade, and so all the talent started to come, and then they put it together. And during that time, I think you really got to see how passionate the Sacramento fan base was. And, they're craving in Sacramento for professional teams. Like these cities that can't always support these teams, I found the passion in Sacramento, not only for the Kings, but just in sports in general, was really something I was drawn to. I mean, walking down the streets and just people engaging in conversation about the local teams. It was never really more evident, though, until the Sacramento River Cats actually came, which is a minor league affiliate baseball team. And when they came to Sacramento, they were selling out every night. And then they would go on and win PCL championships and all this stuff. But I was like, okay, if a minor league baseball team can come to Sacramento and get that much support, then you can put any professional organization here and they're going to support them. So I don't think you can say that for every city. There are a lot of places across the country that there's so many things to do that sports might not be at the top of the list. But in Sacramento, it's huge, and it trickles down not only from the professional level, but from the collegiate level to the high school level, and even into the youth level. So that is something that I really, really appreciated about Sacramento and Northern California in general. And then, you can expand on to the Bay Area, and you've seen what the Warriors have been able to do. So it's not that standard prototypical sports town that people may think of, because it's such a small market, but it really is something that they get passionate about. And I'm forever grateful to growing up there and being around that environment. And it kind of lifted me into the passion that I have as well. It added a little bit more to what I already had.
I can tell from just hearing you speak that it's part of who you are, where you came from. How much does it mean to you to bring those same values to where you are now and still have that Sacramento hometown feel inside of you?
Yeah, it is important. I will never forget where I came from, or kind of where my roots are laid. And I tell people all the time, I'm out here in Georgia now, but I'm still a Kings fan. Like when they were making their little playoff run this year, I'm watching every game. I'm paying attention to what's going on, and it's something that is just natural for me. It's ingrained in me. I have a ton of friends that are in that same area, and we don't see eye to eye on some of the teams, but we go back and forth, and I'm still in contact with them daily, having our normal friendly debates that we have. Um, Part of being in Northern California that I really appreciated was we were in a valley. We were close to everything, or not too far from everything, but we were still considered kind of a small community. And coming now here to Georgia and seeing a real small community, I have an appreciation for what that taught me there and how to kind of go about navigating that space. So Sacramento and California, despite the things that I maybe didn't like there and wanted to leave from, will always hold that special place in my heart. And it really is important for me to bring some of that culture here down south, while also embracing theirs.
We're talking to Aaron Mukes. He's the sports director at WALB-TV in Albany, Georgia, and he finished at the top of his class at the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. But I remember you telling me school wasn't always your thing, and seeing how well you did with us, sometimes that's surprising for us to hear when we hear that. What were your early experiences like going through the school system before you came to us?
I was really immature, and that can be said for most probably kids that are first going to college. I wasn't that mature in high school when it came to handling schoolwork. I was about sports. I wanted to play sports, and I didn't really put the two and two together that, hey, to be a good athlete, you probably got to be a good student as well, or unless you're just that superior, right? So when I left high school, I stepped foot on my first 4-year college. Thought I was going to play football. I was ready. And within 6 months, I was on academic probation. I didn't go to class. I was an adult. I could do whatever I wanted. Nobody was forcing me to go to class anymore. And so I made the choice not to go to class, and that it hurt me. But I also look back and I think I don't know if I would be where I am now if I didn't go through that process. So I dropped out, went and got a job, did the work thing. And then I was like, you know what? I really got to go back to school because this is not what I want to do forever. I'm working in a restaurant, making good money, buying stuff, but it's not a career. And I know that. And so I go back to school. I joined my local community college. I'm like, hey, let's give this a try. I signed up for one class. And Rishi, when I tell you I couldn't get through one class, it was a geography class. I mean, they weren't teaching me nothing except for, hey, these are the places on the world. And I'm just like, yeah, I dropped out again. And so I had pretty much given up on, okay, you're just not going to go to college. You're going to work and you're going to bust your butt and you're going to work your way up that way. So I did. I got a job for the government. I worked my way up very, very quickly. I was one of the youngest people in management there. I was always an extremely hard worker. But again, I got to the point where that's where I kind of matured and learned what's important and how to approach day-to-day responsibilities and how to get through tasks that needed to be completed. And then so when I made the transition and I said, okay, I'm going to go back to school when I left that job, I knew I was going to be successful because my mindset at the time was ready. I was just more emotionally stable and mature. And I knew, okay, I had an end goal in sight. When I was younger, I didn't know what my career path was. I didn't know where I ultimately wanted to be. When I went to Full Sail, that path was clear. I had direction and I was motivated. And one thing about me is when I'm motivated to do something, I'm not stopping. There's no stopping me. I'm going to get to wherever I need to get to, pretty much by any means necessary. That's the kind of work that I'm going to put in. So I think it was just having that level of maturity, which really helped me turn around that mindset of school. And I think that goes for everybody. I teach my kids that now. I tell them, you don't have to know what you want to do, but focus on a goal or a mindset on where you want to be and just use that as your path. Let everything else play out, and it might be now, it might be when you're 21, it might be when you're 28, it might be when you're 38, when you're 58. I think we all feel a lot of pressure when we're young it has to be right now. It has to be right now. You have to know what you're going to do. You have to know your next steps. And we have time. Like this life is short and we want to enjoy it. But I think people are so pressured into feeling like they don't have the time to accomplish their dreams or accomplish what they want to accomplish. Kind of set back, give yourself a break and focus, and then realize you do have the time. If you put in the work and then you'll get to where you want to get to. It really is just a mindset.
It sounds like that government job was a turning point for you to understand what was possible in your life. How did that help your confidence in knowing that not only is there more out there for me, but I am capable of going after that and achieving it?
Yeah, it was a different kind of confidence. I've always grown up confident. I've always, again, as an athlete, you think you're the best and all that stuff. But when you hit the real world and nobody cares about you anymore, I mean, the regular people that don't know you don't care whether you're successful or not successful. You have your small circle. I think when I got into the government job and I started to realize that not everybody's in my corner, not everybody wants me to succeed. You might run into obstacles where people see you as a threat to them and they try to hold you down or something like that. So I got to see a lot of that. And I realized if I put my head down and I continue to do what I'm doing, the work will kind of speaks for itself. And when that happened and when I did it, I saw the success. So when I saw the success, I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path. And so when I realized, okay, this is my path. This is what I need to do. Don't get caught up in the things that are going on around me. When I approached school that second or third time, that's the mindset I had. It was the put your head down, do what you have to do. It doesn't matter that everybody in the TV world is on TikTok or doing this or making millions or living this glamorous lifestyle, or they did this or they got this job and you didn't get this job. I realize none of that matters. If I do what I'm supposed to do, then my path will be clear for me. And if that's, the highest level market one, New York City, where, big network level, then great. If it's Albany, Georgia, then that's my path. Then that's where my path starts and I'll go from there. So just not focusing on what others are necessarily doing, that you might put yourself down a little bit, like, man, I should be here because I feel like I compete with them, or comparing yourself to others. It's just important to stay honed in on what you're focused on and what you're doing. And I think that allowed me to have the confidence that I know I can do this. I belong in this industry because I know the amount of work that I'm putting in to doing it.
You heard that radio ad for Full Sail that you talked about in the Dan Patrick School in time. You decided to come to us, but I know that decision couldn't be made without the support of your family. And you see all the pictures behind you. We'll get more into their involvement soon. But how did their support help you go after your dream?
Man, words are hard to find. You're not going to find too often when, especially in a relationship, and it always gets me kind of worked up, where somebody's willing to put everything aside and hold down the household for you to go out and live your dream. And I think I will always be indebted to my wife for saying, "Don't worry, I got it. We'll be okay. Go do what you want to do." I was in school. I wasn't working a job. I had some odd jobs on the side to try to obviously kind of carry my weight or feel like I needed to do something. But to have somebody that's like, go do you, I will make sure everything's taken care of. We will figure it out. It's second to none. And I will always be indebted to my wife for that, for my kids understanding that I couldn't, make certain things. And to be honest, I got really, really closer to my kids by doing Full Sail and the schooling and the program that you guys have there, because it gave me some flexibility to be at their school and help and be at their games. So I got to be a part of my kids' life in ways that I was never able to do with the state. And for them to see me and watch me put the work in, I think it helped them. And that's a proud papa moment when you see how proud of you they are. It's everything to me. I mean, it really means everything to me. And sometimes I can't find the words to explain what it means to me, but it's just this feeling in your heart, knowing that you have people on your side that support you. And it wasn't just my immediate family. Like, it wasn't just my wife and kids. My mom is on, YouTube watching my stuff that I'm posting for Full Sail and Dan Patrick. And I post online and my sisters are liking it and telling me, man, this is where you were supposed to be your whole life, Aaron, and you were built for this. And so that support it's just unmatched. And I will forever be grateful for them. And like I said, it always makes me emotional talking about it, but it just goes to show you how important having that support system truly is when you're trying to live out your dream.
Yeah, and the online route, you brought up flexibility. It gives you the option of kind of doing your work. I mean, obviously, you got to meet your deadlines when they need to be met, but
Yeah.
in terms
Yeah.
of time of day, whatever, it gives you that opportunity. And it's really how well can you manage your time? How can you work in all the things you got to do in the day and still get your work done at a high level? And you took a lot of pride in your work. When you got to us, it wasn't too long before people like me and other instructors who didn't even have you yet knew that, wow, this guy's got something. Um, why do you think you succeeded so quickly when you got to us?
I mentioned earlier when I'm motivated for something, I'm gonna do it, and there's nothing that motivates me more than sports. So, we understand the program at Full Sail. It's dynamic. You have your classes that you have to take that may not be related to sports, but I always had that end goal in mind. Like, I'm going to get to do highlights. I'm going to get to do, writing. I'm going to get to, put together a show. And so knowing that, I was motivated to get through every class. And by doing that, I spent a lot of time, even when it wasn't on classwork, just paying attention to things when I watch sports. And I'm like, okay, how do they do this? How do they do that? And I was like a deer in headlights when it came to the on camera stuff. Even though I might have put together some good stuff, for the program, I watch these shows on network television. I still do it to this day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so bad. Like, I watch some of my Full Sail stuff and I'm like, it's night and day. I was just truly motivated to be different than I had been in the past in school. And so every class I took pride in, every class, whether it was um, creative presentation at the very beginning or just a regular English composition class, like, I just took pride in saying, you know what? I had always struggled with getting good grades and being focused in school. I said, I'm going to make a point. I think it was by class 3 when I seen the A's and the percentages. I was like, you know what? The grade really didn't matter, but to me, it mattered. I was like, you know what? I wanted to see these A's come across and I want to be top of my class. And when I finish this, I want to be valedictorian. And at that point, when I seen, how that was celebrated and how the graduations worked and all that, I was like, this is something I can do. So I'm going to set that as my goal. And nothing else really mattered. It didn't matter anymore. If it was about sports or about anything, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to, graduate at the top of my class. So it was just me being focused, and that thing that drives me inside is when I'm motivated, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do.
You were proactive as well. Not only did I hear from you pretty early on and plenty of your other instructors, but you reached out to other students in the program, and that's how you got involved with Rough Cut and how you got involved with the Sac City podcast. How did that experience change your life, both in Full Sail and otherwise?
I think with Full Sail specifically, the reps were super important, and not just, it was off the cuff. It wasn't nothing structured, but the reps of just talking in front of a camera, because it may not seem like it, but I still get a little uneasy when I'm in front of the camera. It's not that I'm nervous. It's that, where do I look? Do I do this with my hands? Like, I think we all kind of have those natural things that we're like, what do we do in front of the camera? The Rough Cut was like, whatever, who cares? Just talk to your friends. And now we're recording it instead. And so I couldn't have met a better group of guys to do it with, because they also kind of had this who cares attitude. Let's just talk about sports and be funny and have cool moments. And then as it grew, we were like, okay, this can be something that not only we can have fun with, but we can get better at. We can put ourselves out there. Hey, maybe we can grow this into something big. So that experience was unlike anything I had ever experienced. To talk daily about the things you want to talk about and have people watch you. I don't care if it's one person or a million people. When somebody reaches in that comment and says, oh, I like your take about this, or oh, you're completely wrong, and wants that interaction, I just fed off of that. And I loved it. It was just something that I'd never felt before.
It's the first time I got to see him play in person. Dude especially threw the ball on a dime to David Montgomery on the sideline while escaping the pocket. It's one of the better throws I've seen this year. I think people need to start paying attention to Justin Fields, because I think it's about to happen.
I am forever grateful to Vinny and AJ, because they saw my stuff, reached out to me, we collabed, and it just worked that way. But that experience with Rough Cut in Sac City was just, it was wild. But what people don't realize is the hard work that was put into it. There were points in time where I was not sleeping because I was doing school, trying to keep up on my assignments. We had our assignments for school, and we were on air 6 days a week. And we were trying to be a production style podcast where we had video and graphics and all this stuff. And that took work. And then I'm also big on making sure facts are correct. So I was researching, and the amount of time I thought my wife would probably say something that we were spending on this podcast was insane. And I have a huge appreciation for people that do it daily still. And it's just something, it's unlike any other kind of production I've ever been a part of, but it really to my core spoke to who I am. Talking about sports, no matter the sport, hockey, football, basketball, baseball, in a passionate way while having fun doing it. And that's really what I'm about. Like I still approach that, use that approach every day I go into work now. I want to talk about sports and tell stories, but in a fun, positive, energetic way. And that's what I get to do now for a living. And it's just unparalleled.
And I appreciated the work you put into it too, because when I would watch, it's like, oh, they clearly did their homework and understand the nuances. Because sometimes you can tell, right? If you follow a team and you know the kind of the local coverage versus the national coverage, and you know what kind of the local people are saying that maybe have a little bit more insight, and then you hear some people nationally talking, you're like, they clearly didn't do their homework because they didn't understand this or this. I remember a couple of times listening to you and be like, oh yeah, he gets it. And that's, I think, as high a compliment as you can get when you're trying to cover, 32 teams in the NFL. So
yeah, it's hard because you can't be an insider for everybody. And like you said, insiders usually are more in tune, but I use my resources. I can follow a lot of insiders. I can do my research to be informed more than just the general casual fan. And I think that's what I try to always do, is bring something that's not said on ESPN every day, because they can't cover everything. Bring a little bit additional. And it really wasn't too hard for me because I also loved doing the research. I would watch old games. I'm watching highlight film of these teams that maybe nobody's paying attention to, or this backup right guard that nobody cares about. Like, I'm diving into, what makes him a good player, what he needs to work on, what does this tape look like? And again, it was time consuming, but it was stuff that I don't get bored with it. That's stuff I want to know. And it was always interesting to me. So I find myself just going down the rabbit hole of looking at things and be like, oh, I've been doing this for 6 hours. What am I doing? I need to eat, or, whatever. So yes, I put in the time, and really that's all it was. It was just time, energy, and effort. And it goes to show you, if you want to do it, if it's something you really believe in and you really care about, then you're capable of doing it.
No, it must tell you something if you're willing to put in all those sacrifices in that time to do something, that you must really love it and that you picked the right career path. So that had to be satisfying that early on. And throughout it, you grew this brotherhood. And I think one of the biggest challenges for the online students is that feeling of connection, because you're not in a classroom like a brick and mortar classroom with everybody else. You are on your own and you're on your own little island. And yeah, sure, you can connect virtually, but it's hard sometimes. How did that brotherhood help enhance your experience?
It was everything, to be honest. Yes, I would have got through the program. Yes, I probably would have done really well and graduated. But the online program, the thing that I felt like I was going to be slighted with was feedback. And although the instructors were great at giving video feedback, there's something about, okay, you're on campus with them, they can tell you right there, this is what you should be doing. When I'm doing these online projects, the camera's there, I'm going through these reps, I'm not getting anything. I'm not getting feedback. I'm not, hey, maybe try this. So unless I reach out and say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with, you don't get that. Well, Vinny, AJ, and Dylan, they were there. Before I submitted assignments, it's like, hey, take a look at this. What do you think? Oh, Aaron, you're kind of lacking energy. Hey, change this script up a little bit. And that feedback allowed me to, okay, let me rework and think. And then again, it grew into this friendship and this bond of, we were honest. We weren't gonna, sugarcoat it. It wasn't gonna be like, oh yeah, you're great because you're my friend. Like, no, you need to be better. And we pushed ourselves. And then we were competing against each other. Who can write the better scripts? Who can have the better videos? And that competition itself, again, drove me even more because I love that competition. And I was in a class that started with maybe 8 people when I started. By the time I graduated, none of them were there. Like, I had some other students that had got some military credits and graduated before me, and some fell a little bit behind because of personal things. And so I didn't really have that classmate any longer. Aaron Like was the one that I had been bouncing things off of. We were in the same class for a while, and then he moved up. And so I didn't have that within the class every month. And so that was hard. So I would look to Aaron and look to Vinny and AJ and Dylan and just say, hey, give me feedback. Tell me what I'm doing. Like, what can I improve on? Where do I need to be? And their honesty and push and their willingness to push me, it made a huge difference in me not only feeling confident that I was on the right track, but knowing that when I got out of the program, I was going to be able to go somewhere and hit the ground running right away.
That's Aaron Mukes. He is the sports director at WALB-TV. I like when you wear your shirt because I don't forget the call letters. Although for you, it's easy because it's Albany, right? So Albany, Georgia is where he's at. What were your biggest takeaways from the program being a student?
Oh man, where do I start? First of all, I did the little virtual online campus tour, and I was like, man, I really wish I could go to Florida because just watching it was amazing. But the instructors were very communicative, and I'm big on communication and reaching out. And when people reach out to me, I always try to get back with them as soon as I can. I don't, I try not to ignore people, even when I get busy. I'm just that type of person. I'm never too busy to try to respond. And so their willingness to adjust times and, be open to maneuvering my schedule, my kids, and their willingness to work with me was something I appreciated because that's important to me, is having that balance between my family and my job, or family and school. But the insight and just being able to learn from the people who have worked at big networks, who have done it, or been around people that have done it at such a high level, people that I idolize, I think that I knew the information I was getting it with was correct. The information I was getting was going to be tools that I could use in my tool belt to get me to where I wanted to go, which was ultimately where they had already been, or where they're at currently, or people that they know that they have worked with or worked for are at. So it was really the instructors and how they interacted with me. And then the setup of the program was really cool. It was very clear. There was no confusion. I knew what was due, when it was due. The navigating through the program was fairly simple. And then, like I said, just the instructors and the combination of the instructors and the curriculum, it was like a match made in heaven. It was things that I'd always been interested in and never really knew how to approach. The only thing I will say is Full Sail messed up the way I watch TV forever. It did, and it's not a bad thing, but it is so interesting how the little nuggets of information has you looking at how production is done differently, looking at the lower third graphics you may never pay attention to when you watch a game, looking at the intro graphics that are coming in, how do they go from scene to shot. All of that is something that no matter what I watch now, I don't care if it's a regular television show, a sports production, I notice it. And I know when it's good television, and I know when it's bad television. And so I try to mimic my local station very much based on what I learned. Not always easy, but I try to get to that level because now I understand the different dynamics. Whereas the layman person that's just watching the television may not know that there's an error on a graphic. But guess what? I see it now. I see them all. And so it bothers me a little bit to see it. But then I go, you know what? I appreciate how detailed the school was to give me that knowledge and give me that eye to be able to identify that.
Well, eventually you did get to the finish line, and that goal you'd been wanting to finish at the top of your class, you made that happen, and you left with the degree and also this knowledge that came with you finally being this amazing student. What did that all mean to you?
Emotional. I'm be honest, I never thought I would graduate college. Like, never. When I just kept going through life, I was like, well, I'm just not going to be a college graduate. And in my family, we don't have many college graduates. So my younger sister of my immediate family was the first one to actually graduate from a 4-year with a degree, a bachelor's degree. And so it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot for my family. It meant a lot for my parents to see that I was capable of finishing something and saying, hey, like this means a lot to me. So I was super proud of that moment. It was something that I never felt. And I think I kind of expressed it when I walked across the stage. I like opened my arms and I was just it wasn't really for attention. I wasn't trying to really like draw attention to myself. Like it was more like I did it. I did all that for myself. I will remember this moment forever when I came off the stage. First of all, shout out to Vinny, AJ, and Dylan for making the trip, showing up to my graduation. That meant a lot for them to be there for me. And then obviously my wife came. But for the moment that really got me was afterwards, we were done and Gus and I were talking. And then like Gus gave me a hug and I just broke down. I mean, like in tears. And I just thanked him for everything that he had done for me and that he believed in me. And it really was really directed at all of you guys for the amount of support that you guys gave me. One of the hardest moments that I went through was at the end of the program. I believe it was in your class. And my wife went into the hospital. I was getting near the end. It was close. I was getting near the end and I reached out to some people and my wife went into the hospital. I suffered a ruptured brain aneurysm. And I did not really know. And I don't recall if it was your class. Maybe it wasn't. But I had went through this kind of feeling like, oh no, what am I going to do? My wife was, on the cusp of not being with us anymore. And I needed some time. I wasn't going to be able to submit my assignments. And I can't even really recall the moment. That's how fuzzy it is now. But just the willingness of being able to adjust schedules and say, hey, don't worry about us right now. We're going to be here when it's over. When you need to come back, we'll be here. It meant everything to me because in that moment I had my wife's health as the number one priority, but I want to graduate. I want to be valedictorian. I don't want to mess this up. And so I felt all this pressure. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with in my life. I've had a pretty wonderful life, never really any hardships. But that moment, like I thought it was just going to all come crashing down. And so just the patience and the support that everybody at Full Sail showed me was, every time I talk about it, I do this. I'm an emotional guy. I start crying and get worked up because it really, it was just it was the hardest moment I've ever had to deal with in my life. And I was able to get through it because of the support from my friends, family, but also the school knowing what I wanted to do and where I was getting into. It was important.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us as the course directors and people associated with this program to understand, like everybody's got a different, when you've got a class full of online students, you don't really know what's going on in their lives. And, sometimes it's hard to communicate those things too. But, when it's somebody like you who has, clearly shown that you're putting the effort in, it's easy to try to give you an opportunity to, get whatever extra time you need and all that. But glad everything is okay and that you guys got through it and everything's looking good now. I do want to touch on one more thing before we get to what you're doing now. You had a decision to make. I knew when I saw your stuff at the end of the program, this guy's going to get some interest pretty soon because he's got a lot of talent and there's a lot to love about him. But you got a job offer and wasn't right for you, and you ended up turning it down and kind of betting on yourself you're going to get another opportunity. Why was that the right decision for you, and how did that all work out?
Yeah, it was crazy because I was willing to jump in. I mean, I was ready to jump in. I didn't care how much they paid me. It didn't matter. Like what they said I was going to get talk sports, I was in. So I got an offer from a station in Nebraska, and they weren't paying a lot, but it was, again, I have to move across the country. So I know that that's a daunting task, but I was like serious about getting in the industry because I know my work ethic. I felt like once I'm in, I don't care where it's at. Once I'm in, I will prove myself and I'll get to where I want to go. So it was harder than I thought it should be because I knew it wasn't what I deserved. I knew it was, I deserved more, but I also knew that, some of these local stations, they can only do what they can do. And I did think about it and I was contemplating it, but in my mind, I said, no, I can do better. And if I'm going to move across the country to do this, that I need to at least feel 100% confident all in. I think that I'm going to get other opportunities. And so I did reject that opportunity. And that was the first official on television TV job offer I had. And turning it down was hard because, again, you never know when you're going to get your next opportunity. But I was pretty confident. Then I had been contacted by a few people that were like, hey, we got MMJs available. You know, you might do some news, you might do some sports. And I'm just going to say, I got into this industry to do sports. I didn't get into this industry to be rich. I didn't get in this industry to like dabble in this and maybe then navigate to something else. I love sports. I want to be in sports. If it doesn't pay as much as news, doesn't matter to me. I want to be in sports. And so could I have taken those jobs? Sure. Could I have, explored that further? But I asked you, and you told me a number of times, I think you can get a job just sports from where you're at. And I believed it. I was confident in it. So I didn't pursue those jobs. And then it was a phone call one day for a job that I did not even apply for. And it was Albany, Georgia. And it was Gerald Goodman, who was a former coworker of Gus Ramsey at the school. And Gus had very good things to say about me. And he obviously thinks very highly of Gus's opinion. And he gave me a call and offered me the sports director's job, which I had no idea that I would get straight out of school, and said he liked my real world experience, as you mentioned earlier. And that's why he wanted me for the position. And like I said, missing out on those other things, not pursuing those other things, it was a blessing because I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
And now you're wearing the shirt, so I can tell you're still there. Well, I guess you could have stolen the shirt, but I don't, you don't seem like that kind of guy. No. So what's it like living the dream?
Oh man, it's everything I thought and more. When I first got there, I was in the studio at Full Sail. I think I went to the studio one time and we shot like a promo. When I went first week there's no sports reporters. They're on vacation or leaving, or they're going to be gone. So I'm there 2 or 3 days. I get trained on the camera that they use, the software that they use, and then the rundown that they use. And by day 4, my boss says, hey, we need you on air. And I don't even know how to put the show together. So I'm struggling through EMPS. I'm trying to figure this all out. I'm calling the guy who is currently on vacation that's going to be my employee. And I'm talking to him. He's helping me out. And within 3 or 4 days, I'm on air for my first 6 o'clock sports segment that I put together myself and produced. And when I got in front of the camera, I wasn't nervous. I thought I'd be nervous. I wasn't nervous. I was just like, okay, this is weird. Hadn't really experienced it. And I read it. I mean, word for word, I read it. I was no energy. I was just reading, and I watch it back still to this day. And I'm going, that is not what they taught you at Full Sail. But I will tell you, I was so thankful that they threw me into the fire because I liked it. I got something out of it, and I was able to see myself then and watch what I do now. And although by no means is it perfect, like there's so many things I still have to work on, but the difference, the change that I had from then to now is amazing.
Bust out the broomsticks. Yep, that's right. For the second time this season, the Braves have completed the series sweep. This time it was against the Reds.
And like I said, this station has allowed me the freedom to cover the things I want to cover, to tell the stories I want to tell. I'm blessed to be in South Georgia that has the best Friday night football, the best, college sports teams around here. We're covering UGA and Florida State and Auburn. And then we get to cover the Falcons and the Hawks and the Braves. So from a local market, and this is market 154, and I think this is one of my big messages to people that come through the school, is don't get caught up in the market size, the number of the market, because just because you're in market 154 does not mean you can't cover big time events or cover, things you want to cover, or cover quality sports and tell quality stories. It's really what you make of it. Come with ideas, come with pitches, put yourself out there, make your bosses tell you, no, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. Because all it took was us covering the stuff we covered. And then on TV, we said, we're going to the national championship. We asked our boss, and they had never been to the national championship before, never done anything like that. And then we were in LA. And the highlight of my young career so far was that trip to Los Angeles for the national championship. And that was 6 months into my job.
Did you happen to check StubHub ticket prices when you were there? Because I know when I covered a couple of national championships, I remember doing that and thinking to myself, I am standing here on the field watching this Butkus award-winning linebacker make a tackle like 2 feet from the guy, and I got in here for free. Did you happen to do that to wonder how much money people were paying to go to the event that you were there covering?
I didn't look, and it didn't even come to mind for me to think that much, because one thing I've been super grateful for is the access. And there's nothing like the access, but the access that you get doing what we do is, I mean, really, I'm just so appreciative of that. I don't take it for granted. I don't abuse it. I'm not rubbing it in people's face. It's not about that. But for me to be so passionate about sports, to be there on the field, to be able to talk to the players and just take in the environment, I'm just so appreciative of it that when I go to these things, I'm so tunnel visioned with my job. What do I need to do first, my job? And then I just enjoy the experience of, man, you're on this field and you're getting paid. Yeah, you're not playing. Maybe that was my ultimate dream, right? But I'm doing the next best thing, and there's nothing like it. I am a sucker for like nostalgia and things. I'm not a big keepsake guy. I have every single credential that I've made over this year or received over this year, and I am super grateful. Every time I walk in, before my family came and they made my apartment a mess, I had it hung up on my closet door, and you could just see them all. And every time I walk by it, I'm just grateful for it. And so,
do you mind sharing what some of those were? Some of the things you've covered so far?
Yes. Again, within 3 months of the job, really within a month, I was at the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Game between Oregon and Georgia, and then the Georgia Tech Clemson game on that Monday night. I've been to the Florida Georgia largest cocktail party in the world in Jacksonville. Florida State, Clemson, Florida State, Wake Forest. I've been to the Hawks Cavs. I've been to the Hawks Lakers when LeBron. Oh my gosh, I've done so much. The SEC championship game, the national championship game. We've been to, I'm trying to think of what else we've been to. Obviously, we have our local stuff. We go to the HBCU Classic down here in the South, which is big. This year it's in New York at MetLife Stadium. We're hoping to get there. I don't know if you heard of Wintersville Circle, but Valdosta and Lowndes, one of the biggest high school college football games across the country, is there. Braves, we have been to state championships up at the Braves Stadium at Georgia Southern. I'm trying to think of so many others. I can't even off the top of my head.
That's a lot. And think that's just 1 year. That's just 1 year.
That would
be a career.
That's literally 6 months really worth, from August to about January, February, of stuff that I've been able to cover. And of course, all the Falcons games. And I'm telling you, it is the dream. This is the Livin The Dream podcast. It is absolutely my dream, and I'm living it.
Well, I know the one thing that was difficult through all that is you did have to move across the country, and your family wasn't able to join you right away. How were you able to handle that?
It was tough. It was tough. It was tough for my wife. Like, first of all, shout out to her for being able to do that, because anybody that knows her knows how much the family means to her and us being all together. But we talked about it. She agreed to it. And when I first came, it was, again, just trying to get the lay of the land out here. So I was busy. 6 months of football down here, I was working 7 days a week. No days off, 18-hour days at times, just to stay busy. FaceTiming my wife when I get off, in between lunches, whatever. Talking to my kids a little bit on the phone with my son for his senior year. So basically from July to December, before that national championship trip, I made one trip down here around my birthday time and got to spend some time with my family. So that was nice. But outside of that, it was cold turkey. No really contact outside of through the phone. And then in December, I went back for Christmas, and that's when my boss decided to have me stay out there to go to the national championship that was happening in January. So since then, it's been a little bit easier on us emotionally, because I've been back and forth watching my son kind of finish his senior year. Now, it's hurt the wallet a little bit. Can you imagine flying back every week? I basically worked for free. at that point in time, because the money I'm making was all going to flights to get out to California. So it was hard. And, they're here now. It's been, they moved Friday. So they just got here Friday. It's an adjustment. We have, again, moving boxes everywhere, but it's nice to have them here. It's a little different now. It's not as quiet, but it is truly a blessing to have them here, kind of getting them situated. And it's crazy to think about, but when you have a family, you have so many decisions, and you know this, on how long do you stay in a local market? Do you keep moving from next market to next market? And I've always said I will never sacrifice going through what we went through, moving my family from place to place. I will never sacrifice that for the job. I want to have a foundation and something structured, especially while they're going to school. And it's been a year. It's been nice here. And this could be somewhere that I'm at for a little bit, just because of that freedom that my station allows, and then the schooling that my kids will be in without having to bounce around. So I can honestly say Albany, Georgia has been good. It's been good. It is the dream so far.
Well, and now to see it all come full circle, where, right, you have the two loves back together again, your job and your family, and that you're there. I'm sure that's super satisfying. But as you just mentioned, like, having a good place to work means a lot too, with the solid management that is taking good care of all of you. So that's been great to hear.
We have.
Go ahead.
I want to mention that the foundation at the job, which was great, is, again, for people that are in this program, the Dan Patrick program, it's not too often that you go around to these local markets and you find a 3-person sports team. We have a 3-person sports team at WALB and an intern. So it's like we are very well taken care of in sports. And I believe there was a report coming out recently about, I don't know if it was the New York Times or one of those big departments that just got rid of their sports department. Like, they just abolished it altogether. There's another station in Tallahassee that just got rid of their sports department, and they're turning it into a human story element department. So local sports can often be kind of shoved under the rug a little bit. So to me, it was important to have the backing of my general manager, who's a college football official, who, my news director, who worked at ESPN and loves sports and is passionate about sports, but also a community down here in South Georgia that demands sports in their newscasts. And I think that is something that I'm super appreciative, and I will not take for granted, even being here at Market 154.
And being in charge of a 3-person department, that's an added, difficult task. And I think a lot of people that get into the industry don't understand, like, there's a lot of organization and there's a lot of other things that come with that role that are difficult on top of your normal responsibilities. What's every day like as a sports director, like for you in Albany, Georgia?
I'm truly blessed. I'm truly blessed to have the staff that I have. Shout out to Morgan Jackson, Engineer Cooper, who is also a Full Sail Dan Patrick grad. We just hired her. My management style, I think, allows my job to be more stress-free than most. I try to empower the people that work for me or work underneath me to be independent, to one day hopefully pass me up, and maybe I'm looking to them for a job. So I don't think the additional responsibilities really are a hindrance in any way. I think the one thing it is that my management style, I love taking on ownership and responsibility. So some may call it like a control freak, but it's only the negative that I'm controlling. If there's something that's bad that happens, I'm taking all the blame. If it's something good that happens, I'm giving them all the credit. I don't need to be in the spotlight. I don't need to be the one that's always out front. And I think it lends to a conducive work environment that we are allowed to collaborate, and they have a good experience working with me. They know that I hate when they say, "Oh, Aaron's my boss." Like, I'm not anybody's boss. Anything I do, I will also allow you to do. They go to these big time events too, and many sports directors, I don't know if that works the same, but they're at the SEC championship games. They're at the national championship games with me. They're going to these high profile games because I want them to excel, because that's a reflection upon me. So it's really my management style that really I don't feel any additional responsibility outside. If they need assistance, hey, can we do this, or we want to do this, then maybe some additional responsibility there. But I think my management style lends to a good working environment. We all get along. We have fun. That's my number one rule as the sports director is this is sports. This is not news. We see all this negative stuff all the time. Like, have fun with it. Do your best. Are mistakes going to happen? Yes. How can we improve upon them? And so far, it's been very rewarding. And I can't speak for my employees or the people that work with me and underneath me, but I feel like they're happy and they're in a good place. And that it's why I came to Full Sail to promote the job opportunity, because I know what kind of people come out of that program. I've been one of them. And I know what kind of people you guys are producing and what kind of recommendations you're going to give for the people that you guys truly believe in. So it's yes, there's additional responsibilities, but I don't see it as that. Again, every day I wake up, I'm like, I get to do sports for a living. But what if I have to sign a timesheet every now and then? It's fine.
Well, how does it feel to have a Full Sail grad engineer, Cooper? I love the shout out you guys did for Ross Chastain, my buddy, earlier too on your Facebook. I did watch that earlier today. I'll put that on here.
But we're gonna root for our guy Ross Chastain just because he has family in South Georgia, the watermelon man. Why not smash some watermelons at the end of the race?
But what's it been like to have Janier on staff?
It's great. We have, something in common. I know where she's coming from as far as way she sees things because of the program she was taught by. She's eager to get going and get in the grind. But also, I will tell you, it's been a weekend and I've put her to work. We did the NASCAR event on Sunday and we left at noon on Sunday. No, yeah, we left at noon. Event was at 7. We got there at like 3 and we didn't get back to the station until 3 a.m. And again, we're a small market. We don't get the luxury of just every time we want to go to an event, get in a hotel. If we want to go cover that, we got to drive back. So, but she's been a champ. She's we have a lot in common, and so we do this a lot. We like to argue, but argue in a fun way. It's a very competitive, fun environment, and we really do get along. I think she's going to do big things. And again, it just speaks to the program that's there at Full Sail and the kind of people that you guys are producing. And I was comfortable. There was never a doubt in my mind when she said that she was interested. There was never a doubt in my mind that she was going to be one of our top candidates. And, it worked out that she ended up being the top candidate. And when she said yes, we were super excited to have her on board. And I know she's going to do great things. But yeah, we have a Full Sail. We have a little bit of a Full Sail connection, but I do tell her now, like, Full Sail's out the window. When it comes in here, like we can't make Morgan feel like an outcast or anything like that. We all work together. They're getting along great, which is another interesting dynamic being in the industry that I know kind of a taboo topic, but a lot of people question me, and whether it was people in the community or people online about hiring another woman to be in sports. And I'm like, look, that doesn't matter to me. I want somebody that's going to come in and work, know their stuff, and be willing to do the job. And so there was never any doubt in my mind. There was never any, oh no, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe. It's been wonderful, and they've been able to connect to a community in ways that I can't even connect to the community. So I'm super grateful for that, and I think they're both going to do great. But Janier specifically, I think she has big things in store.
All right, final big question: where do you hope your dreams take you moving forward in this industry?
Yeah, this is the big one because this is something that I've contemplated for a long time, Rishi. It's, when I first stepped foot in the Full Sail world, I told Gus when he asked me, where do you see yourself? And I said, well, my ultimate dream. And he said, yes. I said, well, my ultimate dream was to be an analyst for the NFL. And he said, well, you don't play quarterback in the NFL and you don't. and it wasn't that he shot down my dream. He gave it to me real. And then you see the industry and the way it's going and who are the analysts and they are the ex-players. Then I said, you know what? That's okay. I'm going to adjust. And so I came here and with the mindset of I'm never going to work in local TV forever. Like I want to be on the network level. And I've been here a year and that dream constantly changes. So I'm going to say this, the dream that you're looking for, the dream that I was looking for of working for the NFL is still there. At some capacity, I would love to be on the NFL network. That's my ultimate dream. However, this is something that can move. That dream shifts every day. And every day it's, you know what? Maybe I see myself in Albany, Georgia forever. I don't know. Because one thing that I say, I'll tell you and I'll tell everybody out there that's watching, if you're passionate about sports and you're passionate about telling stories, when you find the right place and you do the right things, everything else falls into place. Yes, you might not become rich. You might not make millions and millions and millions of dollars a year. But after being there a year, my job appreciates me. My job has already approached me about an additional contractor, and that's a year in because they've seen the kind of work ethic that I have. So I know that if I put in the work, the money, all that other stuff will come with it that I want, that I feel comfortable with. So my dream is always shifting. It shifts every day. I take my dreams now day by day. So my dream today is to go into work and crush my 6 o'clock tonight, and then crush my 11 o'clock tonight, and get ready for some big time stuff that we got coming up with football season. And that's just how I move. It's now a short-term dream each and every day.
All right, we're going to wrap up with what I call a little dream sequence, quick answers from you on there. In your bio, you talked about, enjoying the local restaurants. What it would be a dream restaurant for them to build in Albany for you?
Oh, dream restaurant in Albany. This is gonna sound so weird. You may not know the place. It's called Monterey Bay Canners. It used to be in California where I live. They had one on Seaside and there's one in Hawaii. Monterey Bay Canners, I used to work there. The best seafood you could have.
Okay, I like that. All right, Dream Kings starting five. Give it to me.
Any players ever?
You could go either way. You could either go any players ever or any Kings ever, whichever you prefer.
Let's do any Kings ever. Oh, this is tough. Oh, I love Jason Williams, but I'm a De'Aaron Fox guy. I'm gonna go De'Aaron Fox, Mitch Richmond.
Hoping you'd say him.
You need shooters. I'll take Peja, and then you can't go away from the guys that almost brought you the ring. Give me Weber. Oh, it's a toss-up. People won't like this. Toss-up between Vlade and Boogie Cousins, but Boogie Cousins is prime with a better attitude. Give me Boogie Cousins.
I like that you went different generations there. I think you got like 4 different generations. That was really good. All right, final one. What's your dream work assignment that someone may not expect?
I'll be living the dream next year. It is Augusta, Georgia, the Masters.
Fantastic. Love it. One last thing. Any advice you want to share on your way out?
Yeah, to anybody in the program or anybody thinking about being in the program, embrace it. Go full force. Don't be afraid to take chances. Don't be afraid to look silly on camera, off camera. But if this is something you really, really want to pursue, if you put in the work at Full Sail, with Dan Patrick, with Gus Ramsey, Rishi, and the other instructors, then you too can be living your dream at whatever station, market, network that you want.
They give you a fancy shirt that goes with that. Thank you very much. Aaron Mukes, fantastic guest, no surprise. Love it. Aaron, we could have gone for 3 hours and not covered everything, but I appreciate you giving me an hour of your time today, and looking forward to seeing that 6 and 11 tonight that you have coming up. For the rest of you, hope you all keep on living your own dreams, keep on chasing them. Good night, everybody.